Most wars are remembered. Some are buried. But a few are deliberately hidden, sealed behind classified doors, locked in the memories of men who swore never to speak. This is the story of one such war. A war that officially never happened. A war the U.S. government erased so completely that even the soldiers who survived sometimes wondered if it was real. They called it the war that time forgot. Chapter 1. The Call No One Understood. In 1968, during the height of the Vietnam War, a small U.S. reconnaissance team, Ghost Platoon, officially non-existent, received a scrambled transmission from deep inside the Central Highlands. The voice was faint, cracking, barely human. This is Outpost Echo. We're under attack by something not. Viet Song, not human. Send reinforcement. Then static. Satellite imaging showed nothing. Intelligence insisted it was a radio glitch. But the message kept repeating every night, exactly at 2:13 a.m. So command sent Ghost Platoon. 5 men trained for missions the public wasn't allowed to know about. Leading them was Captain Elias Ward, a soldier with a reputation for surviving the impossible. He'd seen strange things in the jungle, things he'd never report, but even he felt uneasy. As the team boarded the helicopter, Ward muttered, "If Echo Station really fell, why didn't command send a full battalion?" The pilot replied with a cold half-smile, "Maybe they don't want witnesses." Chapter 2. The Jungle That Shouldn't Exist. Ghost Platoon was dropped 20 miles from Echo Station. They hiked through terrain that should not have been there. The maps showed flat forest. Instead, the men walked into a twisted maze of towering vines, mutated trees, and fog that smelled metallic. Private Torres whispered, "This isn't jungle. This is something else." The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. No birds, no insects. Even the wind seemed forbidden. Then they found the first body, a U.S. soldier, face twisted in terror, no bullet wounds, just massive puncture marks across the chest, as if something with claws as long as knives had crushed him. Sergeant Hale knelt and examined the soil. Tracks are fresh. Whatever did this wasn't human. For the first time, Captain Ward felt fear crawl into his bones. Chapter 3. Outpost Echo. By the 3rd day, Ghost Platoon reached Echo Station, or what remained of it. The outpost was shredded. Towers collapsed, sandbags torn apart, metal warped like melted wax. Bullet casings were scattered everywhere, but there was no sign of enemy soldiers. Only more bodies, all American. The radio tower, half buried under rubble, flickered with dying power. Static hummed through the broken speakers. Then the message from days ago played again. But this time, the voice wasn't the same. It sounded distorted, echoing, almost mimicking human speech. Torres backed away, trembling. "Captain, that voice isn't real. Something's copying it." Before Ward could answer, a shrill scream echoed through the outpost. Something moved in the shadows. Chapter 4. The Creatures of the Forgotten War. They came crawling down the ruined walls like giant spiders, 6-limbed creatures with armor-like skin, eyes that glowed like dying embers, and jaws that clicked like metal grinding. Not aliens, not animals. Something in between. Later, scientists would claim they were a mutated species released when a secret chemical experiment failed. But Ward never believed that. Not after what he saw. The creatures attacked with terrifying speed. 3 lunged at Private Torres. He emptied half a magazine into them before they fell. More emerged. Ghost Platoon formed a circle, firing nonstop, but the creatures kept coming. Sergeant Hale shouted, "They're hurting us." "They're not dumb." A creature struck him from behind, impaling him through the chest. The team retreated into the communication bunker, slamming the steel door shut. The creatures clawed and shrieked outside. Private Keaton, shaking, whispered, "What are these things? Why didn't command warn us?" Ward finally understood. Because command knew. They sent us here to bury the evidence, not to save Echo Station. Chapter 5. The Secret File. Inside the bunker, Ward found a locked metal case labeled, "Project Chimera, do not open." He smashed it open. Inside were documents, photos, and audio tapes. Enough to make his stomach turn. The U.S. had been experimenting with biological weapons deep in Vietnam, trying to create a creature that could hunt enemy soldiers silently. But the experiment escaped, and multiplied, and attacked Echo Station. The creatures were the government's creation. Torres slammed his fist against the wall. We're not here to rescue anyone. We're here to clean up their mistake. Before Ward could reply, the bunker roof buckled. Claws tore through the metal. The creatures had found them. Chapter 6, The Last Stand. Ghost Platoon fought their way out of the bunker in a blaze of gunfire. They sprinted through the jungle as the creatures pursued relentlessly. One by one, the soldiers fell. Torres was dragged into the darkness. Keaton stayed behind with a grenade belt to buy a few seconds, whispering, "Tell my daughter, Daddy never ran." The explosion shook the earth. Only Captain Ward made it to the extraction point, a small cliff overlooking the valley. The helicopter was already there, blades roaring, but behind him, dozens of creatures emerged, crawling from the twisted jungle. Ward fired until his rifle clicked empty. Then he drew his knife. The pilot screamed, "Get in, Captain! Forget the evidence, just run!" Ward jumped onto the skids as the helicopter lifted. Creatures clawed his boots, but he kicked them off as the chopper rose into the sky. Below him, the jungle swarmed with things that should never have existed. Chapter 7, The Erased War. When Captain Ward returned, he expected debriefings, reports, consequences. Instead, he was met by a man in a black suit who said calmly, "There was no mission. There was no Echo Station. Your men were never deployed. And if you speak of this again, neither were you. All evidence was confiscated. Ghost Platoon was declared missing in action, lost to enemy ambush." Ward spent the next 20 years trying to convince himself it was all real, that his men didn't die in his imagination, that the creatures still lurking in that forgotten jungle weren't waiting to break free. Every year, he sent anonymous letters to the Pentagon. The jungle is still alive. The creatures are still there. Someday they will come back. He never received a reply. Epilogue, 50 years later. In 2018, satellite images detected something disturbing in the same region. Circular patterns of forest destruction, large tunnels carved through the earth, and a repeating radio signal. The same signal from 1968, playing every night at 2:13 a.m. The war that time forgot might be returning. 50 years after Ghost Platoon vanished in declassified history, Captain Elias Ward, now 83 years old, fragile but still sharp, sat alone in his northern Montana cabin. Every morning he checked the mailbox. Every evening he listened to military frequencies on an old radio. And every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., he dreamed of claws scraping steel. But on a cold autumn evening, the past didn't come in a dream. It came as a knock. When Ward opened the door, two strangers in black winter coats stood on his porch. Their expressions were tight, like people carrying information they were terrified to say out loud. The taller one spoke first. "Captain Elias Ward, we need your help. Something has resurfaced." Ward's heart stopped. After 5 decades, he knew exactly what they meant. Chapter 2, The New Outbreak. The men escorted Ward to an unmarked jet waiting at a private airstrip. Inside, a woman in a gray uniform introduced herself. Dr. Harper Vance, U.S. Joint Biothreat Division. Her eyes were sleepless, strained. She placed a tablet in Ward's hands. On the screen were satellite images of a Vietnamese valley, the same valley Ghost Platoon died in. Only now, the forest had been hollowed out, forming a massive crater nearly a mile wide. Dozens of tunnels branched outward like veins. Ward looked up sharply. "They're expanding." Dr. Harper nodded. "We thought your report was exaggerated. Then we detected something else." She tapped the screen. A waveform appeared. A repeating radio transmission. "This is Outpost Echo. Send reinforcement." Ward clenched his fist. That voice doesn't belong to a man. It belongs to one of them. Dr. Harper's face turned pale. "Then we're dealing with an intelligent species." Chapter 3, Return to Vietnam. The jet landed at a restricted U.S. base outside Da Nang. Soldiers were unusually tense. The mess hall empty, security doubled. Ward was greeted like a relic from a war they weren't allowed to teach in military schools. A young lieutenant stepped forward. "Sir, it's an honor. Command told us you're the only man alive who actually saw Project Chimera." Ward didn't smile. "I saw my men die. That's all." The lieutenant swallowed hard. "Then you want to see this." He led Ward into a refrigerated containment room. Inside, strapped to a steel table, was the corpse of a chimera creature, larger than the ones Ward remembered, nearly 7 feet long, its armor-like plates black as obsidian. But what terrified him most weren't the claws or fangs. It was the metal embedded in its skull, like jagged shards from a broken helmet. Ward kneeled closer. "They're wearing our gear?" Dr. Harper explained. "We found dozens like this. They're scavenging U.S. equipment, learning from it, using it." Ward whispered, "They're evolving." Chapter 4, The Dark Cavern. A joint U.S. Vietnamese strike team assembled, with Ward advising. Drones had pinpointed the deepest tunnel, believed to be the core hive of the creatures. As they descended into the mouth of the cavern, the air grew colder, thicker. The walls were clawed smooth, as if creatures traveled through them for centuries. Then the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Ward froze. This was not a nest. It was a graveyard of battles. Scattered across the cavern floor were remnants of old wars. American helmets from 1968. Soviet rifles from 1971. North Vietnamese uniforms. Rusted knives. Bullet casings older than Ghost Platoon itself. Ward whispered, "This wasn't just our war. They've been fighting anything that enters their territory. For decades." A soldier approached a pile of skulls. "Sir, these bones are not all human." Before Ward could answer, a shriek echoed through the cavern. The air shifted. The ground trembled. Dozens of glowing eyes opened in the darkness. The creatures surrounded them. Chapter 5, The New Leader. The chimera creatures didn't attack immediately. They moved back, forming a circle, as if making room. Then something stepped forward, larger, taller, smarter. An alpha. Its skull plating was fused with metal and human radio parts. And strapped to its chest was a familiar object, a half-shredded American dog tag. Ward stepped closer, squinting. The name nearly crushed him. Hale, Jonathan. Sergeant Hale. His sergeant from Ghost Platoon. The alpha creature reached up and tapped the dog tag with claw, as if it remembered the man who once wore it. Ward staggered back. "No, it can't be. Hale died. I saw him die." Dr. Harper whispered. "Captain, it might have dragged his body back to the hive, integrated his gear, learned from it." The alpha shrieked, and the attack began. Chapter 6, The Fight Below the Earth. Gunfire ripped through the cavern. Creatures dropped from the ceiling, lunging with terrifying speed. Ward guided the soldiers. Aim for the joints. Their armor's weaker there. But for every creature they killed, 2 more appeared. The alpha moved with impossible precision, dodging bullets, coordinating attacks with shrill calls, almost like battlefield commands. Dr. Harper shouted, "Captain, it's using strategy. These things shouldn't be this smart." Ward didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the alpha's dog tag and remembering how Hale had died buying him time. As the team was pushed back toward the cavern entrance, Ward made a decision. "We're not escaping unless we take out the alpha." He grabbed a fallen soldier's flamethrower and stormed toward the creature. Dr. Harper screamed, "Ward, stop your 83." Ward didn't care. Chapter 7, Captain Ward's Last Battle. The alpha charged. Ward rolled aside, flames scorching the cavern roof. The creature lunged again, claws slicing Ward's arm. He staggered but held the trigger, engulfing the alpha in a roar of fire. The cavern filled with shrieks. Creatures scattered. The alpha fell, burning, thrashing. Ward approached as it collapsed. For a moment, its glowing eyes dimmed. Then something impossible happened. The creature clicked its jaws and made a noise. Almost human, almost a word. "Wardy." Ward froze. It said my name. Before he could react, The Alpha exploded in a burst of bioreactive tissue, a natural self-destruct mechanism. The blast knocked Ward across the cavern. Everything went dark. Chapter 8. The cover-up begins again. Ward woke up in a hospital bed. Dr. Harper sat beside him, bruised but alive. We sealed the tunnels, collapsed the hive. If any creature survived, they're buried miles underground. Ward shook his head weakly. You think burying them will stop them? 50 years ago we buried them too. Dr. Harper hesitated. Then she handed him a folder. Inside were photographs of a destroyed U.S. communications tower. Back in America, the same claw marks, the same puncture wounds. Ward's eyes widened. They're already here? Dr. Harper whispered. We don't know how many, or how long. Ward leaned back in his bed. Then the war never ended. Time didn't forget. It just waited. Epilogue, The Coming Shadow. Weeks later, a classified briefing reached the Pentagon. A highway surveillance camera in Arizona captured a strange figure crossing the road at night. 6 limbs, armored plates, glowing eyes. Beside it, dragging in its claw, a piece of metal. A U.S. dog tag. The tag read, Ghost Platoon. The war that never existed was about to begin again. The footage from Arizona wasn't supposed to exist. 2 highway patrol officers found the camera smashed the next morning, wires shredded, metal twisted by something with unnatural strength. Only a backup server saved the clip. But what stood out more than the creature's silhouette was the dog tag dragging behind it. Not Hales, not someone from Vietnam. This one was much newer. U.S. Army active service, which meant the creatures weren't just migrating. They were hunting. Chapter 2. Captain Ward returns. In the Pentagon's underground briefing room, no windows, only cold fluorescent light. Dr. Harper Van stood beside a giant screen. When Captain Elias Ward shuffled in, leaning on a cane, every general in the room rose instinctively. The old man's presence felt heavier than rank. Dr. Harper began. The Chimera species has breached American soil. We now suspect they've been here for months, possibly years. A general slammed the table. Impossible. No way they'd cross the Pacific. Ward rasped. You think they'd swim? They hid in shipping containers. Cargo holds. Trucks. They watched us for decades. Another general's voice trembled. Then what do they want? Ward stared at the frozen image of the creature on the screen. Revenge. Territory. A foothold. Maybe all 3. Dr. Harper unfolded a map. Clusters of unexplained disappearances lit up across the U.S. Arizona, Montana, the Carolinas, Oregon, always in forests, always near remote highways. Ward tapped the map. They're building something. A new hive. The room went silent. Chapter 3. The Silent Town. The first confirmed American attack happened in the tiny desert town of Black Mesa, Arizona. Population 312. Or rather, formerly 312. A recon team flew in by helicopter. They expected a wildfire or a chemical spill. Nothing prepared them for what they found. Houses were silent, cars abandoned, food still warm on tables. And in the center of town, something carved into the asphalt, a spiral symbol, the same pattern Ward saw in the Vietnamese cavern, a chimera nesting mark. The team split up. Inside the sheriff's office, Deputy Ramirez found the radio still broadcasting. A recorded voice looped every 30 seconds. This is Black Mesa Patrol. Under attack. Not human. Send help. The voice cut into a screech. Then the screech twisted back into human speech. Ramirez dropped the radio in horror. Captain Ward was right. They copy us. In the school gym, another recon soldier made a discovery even worse. Every missing resident, their shoes, clothes, jewelry, neatly piled in the center of the room, like offerings or trophies. Chapter 4. The first engagement on U.S. soil. Ward was flown into Black Mesa personally. He stood in the silent main street, breathing the dry desert air. They're close. Dr. Harper frowned. How do you know? Ward looked at the footprints in the dirt. Deep, 6-limbed, overlapping each other. Because they're watching us. They always watch first. As if summoned by his words, a recon soldier whispered over comms. Movement north rooftop. Something's. Static. A scream. Gunfire. All hell broke loose. From beneath the abandoned houses, from storm drains, from shattered rooftops. The creatures erupted like a tidal wave of claws and armor. The U.S. soldiers fought furiously, but Black Mesa's tiny streets offered no retreat. Ward shouted, "Fall back to the water tower. Open ground, make them expose themselves." A young soldier pointed toward a taller creature, leading the charge. "Captain, that one, look." Ward's blood ran cold. The Alpha, but not the one he killed. A new Alpha, larger, smarter, worse. And hanging from its chest, woven into its armor plates, was the same dog tag from the Arizona footage, the tag of a missing American soldier. The creature had claimed him. Ward whispered, "They're stealing our dead," learning from them. Dr. Harper focused on the Alpha's head. "Captain, is that a helmet? Are they wearing our tech?" The Alpha raised its arms, and a screech rippled through the horde. They rushed forward in coordinated formation. Ward's voice cracked. "They're not animals anymore. They're soldiers." Chapter 5. The Cost of Failure. By nightfall, Black Mesa was evacuated. Barely. The creatures melted back into the desert as soon as reinforcements arrived, leaving behind only claw marks and shredded equipment. But the cost was brutal. 37 American soldiers dead, 19 missing, the bodies of none recovered. Ward knew what that meant. The hive is growing. A general turned to him. "Captain, what are we up against now?" Ward spoke like a man reporting a ghost sighting. "A species that learns faster than we can kill it. A species that has every reason to hate us. And a species our government created." No one in the room breathed. Dr. Harper placed a folder on the table. Inside was a photo, a new satellite image, a massive underground structure in the Arizona desert, spreading like a tumor, a new tunnel network, a new hive. Ward whispered, "This is how a planet loses a war." Chapter 6. Into the hive again. A strike was authorized. Ward insisted on going. Dr. Harper argued, "You're too old. You won't survive another fight." Ward replied, "I survived the first war, and I created this mess by staying quiet. I won't die sitting down." They entered the main tunnel near midnight, but the deeper they went, the more they realized something awful. This hive wasn't newly built. It was old, ancient, a dormant nest of creatures had used decades ago, long before Vietnam, long before humans even knew they existed. Ward whispered, "They didn't follow us here. They were already in America." Suddenly, the tunnel shook. The temperature dropped. The shadows moved. From behind, the entrance collapsed, sealed shut. They were trapped. And from the darkness ahead, hundreds of glowing eyes opened. Chapter 7. The Creature That Spoke. The Alpha stepped forward. It examined Ward closely, then made a sound, not a screech, a word, a human word. "Ward." Ward froze. No, I killed you." The Alpha shook its head slowly. Then it lifted an object from its chest, a burned piece of metal, a dog tag. "Hail, Jonathan." Ward nearly collapsed. "Hail? Is that you? Are you still in there?" The Alpha blinked. Then, with chilling clarity, it spoke again. "Ward, you left us." The entire hive echoed with the sound, a chorus of twisted voices imitating the same human phrase. "You left us. You left us. You left us." The creatures remembered. They remembered Ghost Platoon. They remembered being studied, tortured, hunted, and they blamed him. Ward whispered, "God forgive me." The Alpha lifted its arm, and the swarm rushed forward. Dr. Harper screamed, "Run!" But there was no escape. Chapter 8. Ward's Final Choice. As the swarm closed in, Ward saw the detonator clipped to Harper's vest, a portable tunnel collapse device. Enough explosives to bury the entire hive. But using it meant one thing. No one inside would live. Ward grabbed the detonator. Harper gasped, "Ward, no." Ward smiled sadly. "Tell the world the truth. End the cover-ups. End this war for good. And tell Hale, I'm sorry." He pressed the trigger. Light filled the cavern. Rock screamed. The earth imploded. Epilogue: The Old Soldier's Grave. 3 days later, rescue teams uncovered what remained of the hive. They found no creatures, no Alpha, and no Captain Elias Ward. The official report listed him as killed in action, unrecoverable body. But Dr. Harper delivered the truth to Congress. The cover-ups ended. For the first time in U.S. history, Project Chimera was acknowledged as a national threat. Ward's old cabin in Montana became a memorial site. A bronze plaque was placed beside it. Captain Elias Ward, 1935 to 2025. He fought the war time tried to erase. But at night, locals swear they still hear something near the tree lean. Clicks, claws, distant screeches, as if something survived, as if the war isn't truly over. 3 months after Captain Elias Ward sacrificed himself inside the Arizona hive, the United States moved to contain what remained of the Chimera threat. Dr. Harper Vance, now director of the newly formed Department of Non-Human Hostile Species, spent her days buried under satellite images, thermal scans, and biological reports. Officially, Ward's detonation had collapsed every major tunnel. Unofficially, things didn't add up. Thermal scans showed faint movement under the desert floor. Highways near Black Mesa still recorded unidentifiable shapes. And worst of all, something kept broadcasting an old radio message on a forgotten military frequency. "This is Echo Station. Send reinforcement." Harper stared at the waveform and whispered, "Ward, what did you leave unfinished down there?" Chapter 2, A Signal from Below. One evening, Harper received a call from a Nevada desert testing range. A drilling team had discovered a hollow chamber beneath the earth, far from the Arizona hive, far from Black Mesa. Inside the chamber, they found an object wrapped in layers of torn military cloth. A handheld radio, still functioning, still repeating the same transmission. Send reinforcement. But this time, after the fourth loop, a new voice cut in. A human voice. A tired voice. A familiar voice. "Harper, if you hear this, don't come back." Harper froze, blood turning to ice. Captain Elias Ward was dead. She saw the explosion with her own eyes. Yet the voice continued. "I'm alive, but not for long. And they're not finished." The radio went silent. Then something growled in the background. Not human. Chapter 3, The Unsanctioned Rescue. Harper didn't wait for permission. She assembled an unsanctioned strike team, soldiers, geologists, and 2 bunker-busting engineers. Their objective, find Ward, destroy whatever survived, end the Chimera species forever. They followed the signal deep into the Nevada desert, where old Cold War tunnels rotted under decades of sand. Ward's last transmission originated from beneath an abandoned nuclear test site, a place nobody visited, a place perfect for hiding a hive. As the team descended through rusted ladders and collapsed corridors, Harper saw claw marks on the walls. Fresh ones. A soldier whispered, "Ma'am, they've been here a while." Harper answered quietly, "No, they moved here recently. They're reorganizing." And then they found the first body. Not a soldier. A chimera, burned, twisted, half crushed under falling concrete. Beside it, carved into the wall with a knife. Ward was here. Harper's chest tightened. He's alive. He's fighting them alone. Chapter 4, The Last Hive. The tunnel opened into an enormous underground chamber, a forgotten nuclear test vault, transformed into a breeding ground. Thousands of cocoon-like structures pulsed across the walls. Inside each cocoon, Harper saw silhouettes, human silhouettes, dozens of missing people, suspended, unconscious, slowly being absorbed. The chimera were evolving again, using human tissue to strengthen their next generation. And in the center of the room, Captain Elias Ward lay chained to the floor, battered, bloody, barely breathing. He opened one eye as Harper ran to him. "You shouldn't have come." Harper's voice cracked. "I heard your message. I thought." Ward shook his head weakly. "Not me. It wasn't me." Something behind her growled. Harper turned slowly. The new Alpha stepped from the shadows, taller than any before, smart enough to imitate human speech, strong enough to command an army, and strapped across its chest 3 dog tags. Hale's, the one from Arizona, and Ward's. Ward whispered. "It used my voice. It used the radio. It lured you here." The Alpha hissed, clicking its jaws. Then, disturbingly, it spoke. "Harper." Harper stumbled back. Ward shouted, "Don't listen. It learns from us. It understands us." And then the cocoons began to open. Chapter 5, The final battle. The hive erupted. Creatures poured from the walls. All 6 limbs, all armor, all hunger. The strike team opened fire, bullets shredding the first wave, but there were too many. Harper freed Ward's chains and shoved a rifle into his shaking hands. "Can you fight?" Ward managed a grim smile. "I can still kill." With Ward calling out weak points in their armor, the team fought deeper into the hive, but the Alpha refused to attack. It watched, learning, studying. Then it sprang, a blur of claws and metal. 2 soldiers died instantly. Harper aimed, but the Alpha moved faster than any creature she'd ever seen. Ward stepped between her and the creature. "Come on then. I killed your father." The Alpha let out a screech that shook dust from the ceiling. It charged. Ward jabbed a knife into its throat's soft joint, exactly where he'd taught Hale to strike 50 years ago. The Alpha stumbled. Harper fired a full magazine into its exposed flesh. The creature collapsed, thrashing, limbs spasming. The hive fell silent. Then, the cocoons collapsed one by one. The remaining creatures shrieked in panic. Without their Alpha, the hive intelligence died. The creatures reverted to instinct, and instinct told them to flee. They scattered into the tunnels like terrified animals. Harper fell to her knees, trembling. Ward leaned against the wall, bleeding badly. "It's over. Finally, over." But Harper shook her head. "Not yet. We destroy this place completely." Chapter 6. The End of the Species. The team planted nuclear-grade thermobaric charges around the hive's core. Ward insisted on triggering the final device himself. Harper tried to stop him. "You won't make out." Ward smiled a tired, broken smile. "I never planned to." She grabbed his hand. "You saved us. You don't have to die here." Ward looked around the cavern. "Haunted. This place took my men, took my life, took my peace. If I walk away now, the war won't end." Harper's voice broke. "Then tell me what to say on your tombstone." Ward whispered. "Write the truth. Time didn't forget the war." "We did." Harper backed away as Ward limped toward the ignition pedestal. She whispered, "Goodbye, Captain." Ward closed his eyes, pressed the trigger. Light swallowed the hive. The earth roared. The desert shook. Everything evil beneath America's soil was vaporized in a single burning instant. Epilogue, 1 year later. The world never learned the full truth. The official story was a subterranean gas explosion, but a small memorial was placed at Ward's cabin in Montana. Harper visited it every year. The plaque read, "Captain Elias Ward, the man who ended a war the world never knew existed." No sightings of chimera creatures were reported again. No strange broadcasts. No tunnels. No glowing eyes in the dark. The species was gone. Extinct. The war was over. For real this time. But on quiet nights, when the desert wind howls across the abandoned Nevada test range, some locals swear they hear something under the sand. A faint click. A distant claw. A dying echo of a species that once mimicked human voices. A voice that whispers,